Have you ever seen someone make a decision so bad, it could destroy everything they built? That's exactly what happened at Titan Tech Solutions. A big company. Big money. Big mistakes. The CEO, a woman known for her sharp tongue and even sharper ego, made a move she thought was smart. Instead, it was the beginning of a complete disaster. She walked into the office that morning like she always did, heels clicking, coffee in hand, ready to clean house. She believed the company needed fresh energy, young blood, fast minds. And in her eyes, one employee didn't fit in anymore. He was older, slower, always quiet. He didn't speak up in meetings. He didn't show off. But he was always there, always working, always thinking. To her, he was invisible. Just another cost on the payroll. So, without a second thought, she fired him. No meeting. No questions. No warning. Security was called. His desk was cleared. People watched, but no one said a word. Some thought it was wrong. Others thought, that's just business. The CEO didn't care. To her, it was just one more step toward her vision of a modern company. But what she didn't realize, what no one realized, was who this man truly was. He wasn't just some quiet old employee. He was the mind behind almost every product the company had launched in the last 10 years. The patents, the technology, the ideas that made the company millions, they all had his name on them. And now, he was gone. Fired. With full control of every patent that kept the company alive. And the CEO? She just made the worst decision of her life. Titan Tech Solutions wasn't just another tech company. It was a rising star in the industry, known for cutting-edge inventions and fast product launches. Investors were happy. Clients were impressed. The media praised the CEO for being bold and modern. But behind all that noise, one man quietly built the foundation for it all. His name was Richard. He didn't care for attention. He didn't post on social media. He didn't fight for credit. While others gave flashy presentations, Richard worked in the background, sketching ideas, improving designs, solving problems no one else could. He used a cane to walk and moved slower than the rest, but his mind, still razor sharp. People often overlooked him. Some interns didn't even know who he was. Karen, the CEO, barely noticed him anymore. In fact, she started seeing him as a burden. A sign of the past. Someone who didn't match the new image she wanted for the company. Her consultants kept whispering in her ear, "Get younger talent. Cut the old wood. Show strong leadership." So she did what she thought was bold. She made an example out of him. Time to make space for innovation, she told the board. And just like that, Richard was erased from the company. The team was told to move on. Nobody was allowed to question her. A few co-workers felt uncomfortable, but nobody dared to speak up. After all, Karen was known for firing people who challenged her. She believed she was streamlining the future. What she didn't know was that Richard hadn't just invented small ideas. He held the rights to nearly every major system the company used. And while she signed his termination papers with a smile, he left the building with something far more powerful than she ever expected. The next day felt normal, at least on the surface. Emails were flowing, meetings were happening, and Karen walked into her office feeling proud. In her mind, she had taken a bold step. She believed the company was now lighter, faster, and on track for bigger things. She even told her assistant to draft a press release about Titan Tech's exciting new direction. But beneath that polished surface, something strange started happening. Engineers hit a wall. A simple software update failed. One of the hardware teams couldn't finish a product design. A manager raised a question: who has access to the core blueprint files? Silence. Then, someone checked the archives. Locked. The legal team got involved. They started digging into the company's intellectual property, Richard's projects, his patents, his contributions. And that's when the cracks started showing. Line after line, file after file, Richard's name was stamped on everything. Not the company's name. Not Karen's. Richard's. He had filed each patent under his own name, long ago. And legally, he owned them. Karen was in disbelief. She called the legal team again, this time with panic in her voice. "That can't be right," she snapped. "We paid him a salary." But it didn't matter. Richard had followed every rule. He'd kept the rights. He had the power now. The board started asking questions. The CTO looked nervous. Projects were paused. Every department that relied on Richard's systems was stuck. And Karen? She began to realize she wasn't just dealing with an HR issue. She had fired the one person whose name was holding the entire structure together. And the worst part? Richard wasn't answering his phone. He had gone silent, leaving the company in limbo with everything still legally in his hands. Karen's confidence began to crumble. She called an emergency meeting with the top executives. The mood in the room was tense. No one knew what to say. Every project was tangled up in legal red tape. The lawyers explained it again, slowly this time, just so Karen could hear the truth without twisting it. "Richard holds the patents. All of them." She blinked. "But we paid him to work here." "Yes," the lawyer replied. "But he never signed over the rights. You never made that part of his contract. He followed the rules. We didn't." Karen sat back in her chair, silent for once. For someone who prided herself on being in control, this was a nightmare. A man she barely noticed had outsmarted the entire system without saying a word. And now, the company was stuck. They couldn't launch their new product. They couldn't even update the current one. Every email to Richard went unanswered. He didn't pick up calls. He wasn't active on any social accounts. It was like he disappeared, leaving them frozen. Investors started calling. Rumors spread fast. Titan Tech lost its IP, one blog posted. CEO's major oversight halts operations, another headline screamed. Karen tried spinning the story, but it was too late. Behind closed doors, board members whispered about replacing her. The CFO warned that the stock could drop. Partners started pulling back. The company that once felt unstoppable now felt like a castle built on sand, and the tide was coming in. Meanwhile, in a quiet house far away from the chaos, Richard was watching everything unfold. Calm. Unbothered. He hadn't spoken a word to the media. He didn't need to. His silence said everything. Because Karen had made one huge mistake and now she was watching it grow bigger by the hour. Karen wasn't used to feeling powerless. But now, every hour brought another blow. Investors were backing out. Major clients were pressing pause. And worst of all, employees were leaving. Not just interns or assistants. Key engineers. Product leads. People who had worked with Richard closely, people who respected him, were quietly handing in their resignations. Some left out of loyalty. Others just didn't trust Karen's leadership anymore. She tried to do damage control. She sent out memos. Promised raises. Ordered the legal team to fix it. But there was nothing to fix. The patents were legally sound. Richard had built them himself, tested them himself, and filed them under his own name. All without anyone noticing. All while working quietly in the background. Her ego had blinded her. She had assumed he was just a piece of old furniture in a modern office. She thought firing him would be a power move. Instead, she had handed him power on a silver platter. The legal team offered one last idea: negotiate with him. Karen didn't like the sound of that. Begging the man she fired? Asking for help from someone she dismissed like he was nothing? But she had no choice. A meeting request was sent. A formal letter. Then another. Still no reply. Then, finally, an answer. Not through email. Not by phone. Richard's lawyer responded. He was willing to talk, but on his terms. Not at the office. Not at Titan Tech. And not with Karen leading the conversation. Now, Karen had to sit on the other side of the table. The same woman who once demanded loyalty and obedience was now forced to play by someone else's rules. And the person setting those rules? The same old man she had kicked out without a second thought. The meeting took place in a quiet private office outside the city neutral ground. Karen arrived early, dressed sharply, trying to hold on to the image of control. But her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She knew this wasn't just a conversation. This was a negotiation for the survival of her company. When Richard entered, he didn't look angry. He didn't look smug. He looked calm. Focused. The same way he looked when he used to solve impossible problems at Titan Tech. Karen stood up to greet him, but he didn't shake her hand. He simply nodded and sat down. His lawyer did most of the talking at first. Clear terms. Direct language. Richard wouldn't sell the patents. He wouldn't sign them over. But he was open to licensing under his conditions. Karen would step down. A new leadership team would be put in place. Richard would get full credit for his work, publicly, and a percentage of all future earnings tied to his inventions. Karen's jaw tightened. She wasn't used to being told what to do. But now, she didn't have a choice. The company was hanging by a thread. She glanced at Richard, expecting to see a man enjoying her downfall. But he wasn't. He wasn't interested in revenge. He just wanted what was fair. For years, he'd been invisible. Overlooked. Treated like he didn't matter. And even then, he never stopped giving his best. Now, he was simply making sure he was seen and heard. Karen looked at the papers on the table. Her pride told her to walk away. But her mind knew better. This was the price of her mistake. And the only way to stop Titan Tech from falling apart was to accept terms written by the very man she once believed was replaceable. The agreement was signed. Karen left the building that day without cameras, without applause, without the title she had fought so hard to build. Titan Tech made the announcement quietly: leadership restructuring for a better future. No mention of what really happened. No hint of how close they came to collapse. But inside the company, everyone knew. The new leadership team came in. Richard didn't ask for a corner office or a big title. He didn't want interviews or public praise. He simply returned as a licensed partner. Quiet. In control. No longer ignored. Teams started working again. Projects resumed. Investors slowly regained confidence. And Richard's name, once buried in the background, was now printed clearly on every file, every patent, every major press release. Employees looked at him differently now. Some felt ashamed they never stood up for him. Others were inspired. His story spread fast through the industry. A reminder that the quietest minds often carry the greatest weight. Karen, on the other hand, disappeared from the public eye. No interviews. No updates. Her legacy reduced to a cautionary tale whispered in meeting rooms and startup hubs. Don't be the CEO who fires the genius. People started looking at their teams differently. Asking real questions. Reading the fine print. Making sure they actually knew who was holding the company together behind the scenes. And Richard. He went back to doing what he loved, building things. Solving problems. Creating ideas bigger than titles or egos. He never asked for power. He never needed revenge. But he got something much better. He got respect. And that was something no one could fire him from ever again.